Michael Lunt here from eGame Studio, and I'm joined today by Matt Greenlee from Westfall High School in Williamsport, Ohio. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So I'm going to start with a really simple question. How did you get into esports?
So I played video games all through high school, college, and I saw online that schools were getting into adding esports into their curriculum. Pretty rural school district. Not a lot of kids might not have internet access or the access to these games outside of the school. So it really gives them that look into esports, not just as a sport, but also as a future in careers.
So how did you get the esports program off the ground at Westfall?
So luckily, our technology director was already on the board of a starting up esports consortium of coaches. He really gave us a lot of the information on where to look and where to start. It was doing a lot of our own research, really, because it's such a new sport and new to schools. So we kind of just had to dig through anything we could find online. But luckily, we landed on Esports Ohio, who's the premier league within Ohio for high schools, and started just building our program off of their ideas.
How many teams and titles are you up to now? Because I'm assuming it's not just one.
Yeah, so we have usually two consistent titles. Right now, our two main consistent titles are chess and Fortnite. And then each season, it kind of changes depending on what kids can play that season based on other sports. It also depends on what interest we have. So, for example, at the beginning of this year, we had an Overwatch team along with a Valorant team. In this past season, the second half of the year, we didn't have those two titles, but we also added Mario Kart and Super Smash Brothers. So we have up to 8 or 9 titles we can choose from, and we can host all 9 titles, but we're looking at usually around 4 to 5 titles per season to focus on.
Do you typically try and contain the number of titles that you have, just because, how many coaches do you have at Westfall?
Oh, we have two varsity coaches.
Okay, so obviously you have a lot that you need to take on. If the more titles you add, the more training that you two have to take on, or you have to bring on a third coach. So you mentioned Mario Kart there. So your program has both PC and console as well. Which way around did that start? Did it start with PC?
Yeah, so we started with PC just because that seemed the easiest for us. We were well versed in PC, and then we moved on to console games, specifically Switch games. But we have everything from PC, Switch. You can also play on your own Xbox if you want to bring that in if you'd like. So it really is open to any kind of console that can host the titles.
Okay, so you've got pretty a robust program then. So what's been the biggest challenge that you've had since starting the program? Because it's you and Devin, right? You're the two coaches. So
yeah,
like what's been your biggest challenge?
So our biggest challenge so far really has just been getting the word out there to the students. They hear it, that we have an esports program. When they come into the high school setting, freshmen have so much going on, they forget about any kind of programs, any kind of club. So it's really keeping that idea fresh in their mind. So what we're going to be doing different this season, because we just finished our spring and winter season, is that we're going to hold open lab practices for our current players and then the incoming 8th graders, just to get them kind of really excited and keep us in their mind for when they start school next fall.
So it's a messaging thing for you guys. Like that's kind of the biggest issue. Okay. Well, what about on the flip side? What's been like the most impactful thing about your program?
Really just getting, like I said earlier, getting those kids that access into the world of esports, into digital design, into just being active, seeing all the different avenues it can take you. We've had in the past 3 varsity seasons that we've had here at Westfall, we've had 5 players go on to play at the collegiate level. We've even had 1 go on to play professionally for a team.
Like, did any of those actually pick up like a partial scholarship or a full scholarship as well?
Yeah. So we had 1 student get a full ride scholarship this past season, and 2 other players get partial scholarships this past season.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was talking to all the coaches, and it's like, I hope that more people realize that this is a possibility. Like football, basketball, they have scholarships, but so does this, esports. And I hope that kids and parents as well, which we'll get to in a minute, hope that they understand that this is definitely a viable avenue to getting into college. So staying on the impact for a moment, what's been the biggest benefit that you've seen with the students themselves? Like being part of the program? Like what's it brought out in them?
A lot of the students who play on the esports team don't play in traditional sports, a little more introverted than others, a little more shy, and to see them grow as a person, not just a student or an athlete, but to see them come out of their shell, talk with other people, meet new friends, get support from other school members that they might not usually talk to, just really see them just grow and change as a person. That's been fantastic.
I love to see that impact with the students as well, and like seeing how it brings them out of their shell. So what's the from an academic perspective, because obviously I know that one of the biggest concerns is, why are we allowing kids to play video games in school at all? Like that does not seem like a good use of time.
Right.
But on the, if you actually look at the data, that's not actually a true statement. So what about things like GPA and even their attendance levels? Like how has the program affected that?
Well, there's two ways to look at that. The biggest change we've seen is this year, a lot of our team members are freshmen in high school, and all through middle school, you kind of get moved on to the next grade as long as you're not just failing everything. But once you get to the high school level, you can fail classes, and that just doesn't affect your ability to move on to the next grade level. It affects your ability to take part in these teams and these clubs and sports. And this is their first time seeing that firsthand. So the beginning of this past spring season, we had a few students who were ineligible because of grades, but by the time the next report card came up, their grades were up. So it was just great seeing them being able to take accountability for themselves and their grades because they want to be on the team. They don't want to let their friends down.
It's incentivizing good behavior and stuff at school, right? It's like, that's why football programs, basketball programs work so well in that regard, because you've got a way to say to a kid, look, grades go up or you sit on the bench. It's up to you. Like if you enjoy this, then you got to keep going. I was talking to a coach last week, and he's like, that's one of the biggest problems he sees is coaches being a little too lenient and not using it as the incentive that it can be. What kind of pushback have you seen from parents, probably more so in the initial phases of the program, because as it starts to pick up speed and it's associated with success, parents have got less of an issue with it. But initially, in those early days, what was the pushback like from parents?
Most of the parents and the staff in the school district has been really supportive from the beginning. It's the concept of this being an actual sport. Like I said, at Westfall, we've had 5 seasons now, 2 as a club sport and 3 as varsity. Just getting that mindset of it doesn't have to be fully physical and fully active the whole time. And there's different levels of activity and physicality. You're working more with your action time. You're working more with strategy than you are in some other sports. Just getting that idea out there that this can be a productive sport, and it can be something that you do not just in high school, but like other sports all through college and even professionally, if you're at that level. Getting away from the idea that video games make you lazy and video games isolate you from other people, and that it actually can bring you together.
It's a visual thing, right? It's like one person sat at a computer with headphones on and I'm playing a game feels quite isolating, because you don't see the other side of that, which is the people that they're playing with.
Right.
So, and also as well, games have moved on, obviously, over the years. Like when I was a kid, online was quite difficult to achieve. You needed really good internet.
Exactly. Yeah.
So a lot of the game was solo, or your friends were over and you were playing on the same console. Whereas now, a lot of it is just facilitated online. So it is really the perception of what a parent sees. So I think it's really great that you're taking this approach, because if a parent were to walk into your program, they'd see 5 or 6 kids sat in the same room playing, which is awesome. One of the things that we've been hearing from coaches as we've been talking to them as well is that commitment from players it has become kind of a big problem, as well as like access and funding for the program to kind of grow. Have you seen that? Or like, have you had to kind of deal with those issues as you've been going through the program? And if so, like, how have you navigated any pieces or parts of that?
Our school district was pretty helpful when it came to funding. We've written a lot of grants with local companies through industries within our area. Through our education foundation, we've gotten a lot of grants through them. I know a lot of school districts are struggling though when it comes to the financial side of esports, because it can be cheap. It can get very expensive, but it depends on what level you want to play at and what level you want to succeed at. We're getting to the point now where we have all of our equipment and we're just in our maintenance phase, and that is getting a little pricey. We don't have grants for maintenance. We had grants for all the upfront equipment. So now we're working more with the school and athletic department to figure out what funding we get. Just like every other sport, you get an allotted amount. But if we're halfway through the season and a motherboard on a PC goes out, we've got to get that fixed right away. Now we do have backup and spares, but you don't want to just set that off to the side and forget about it and then have to worry about it again later down the road. So we're getting to that point now where we have to start thinking about our funding, but we have been very lucky ourselves be able to provide the best top-notch equipment at the beginning of our program to our players.
So what's your funding approach? Like, is it just through grants? Is it just by asking the powers that be at school, or like do you do some like fundraising yourself, like booster programs, that kind of thing as well?
We haven't done any boosters yet. That's something we've talked about and looked into, because most sports do boosting. This is our first year really having to think about that. So that's why we haven't done any yet. But most of it had been through grants. I would say probably half of our funding has been through grants. Half of our funding has been through maybe a quarter to half has been through the school itself. And then another quarter to half has been through the education foundation. So I think we've, in the last 5 years, received close to $20,000 in either grants or funding through any of those different entities.
Wow, that's a ton.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
A lot of grant writing on my end.
Yeah. What advice would you give to coaches that don't necessarily have access to the kind of support that you've had? You know, it's like,
do as much research as you can. There's grants out there. It doesn't have to be just local. Talk to as many coaches as possible. If you can build a web of coaches within your community that you discuss and work alongside. The issue here with esports is, unless it's a tournament, you don't see these people in person. You might not know the coach who's just a district away from you very well, compared to other sports where you see them every week. But I would say just reach out. If you see a successful program within your county or area, don't be afraid to contact the coach and ask them, like, hey, how'd you get the money for this? Was it through the school? Where did you find grants? So just really be open to different ideas and having to put in that extra work on your end and not just expect the money to fall into your lap.
I mean, that just talks to networking, doesn't it? And making sure that you are spending your time not only with your students, but also in that network of coaches and building great relationships there. You know, it's always great to have a rivalry and things like that, but it's also important that the coaches are pushing the programs forward so that they're just more widely accepted.
To get your program to work, you could get an Xbox or 2 Xboxes and a monitor and be completely fine to start from there, or have their kids bring in their own Switches. We've really been blessed to be able to do this for our kids. But again, if you're hearing that, don't be afraid and think like, there's no way I can get that money. There's ways to get it, and there's also different ways to go about it. So don't let that discourage you if you're just starting out. Bring in as many people as possible. Don't just rely on your IT department. Don't just rely on the athletic department. Don't just rely on either your principal or superintendent. Kind of build a team around you is what we did. We worked really close with all those people within our district, and even some people from within the county itself. So don't be afraid to build that team, because being a new sport at the varsity level for high school, and just being a new idea and concept in general, you've got to really be able to work with all different types of people. The athletic department might not understand the athletic side of esports. The IT department might not understand the competitive side about it. So just really building that team up and being able to work with everybody. If we didn't have that here and everyone wasn't so supportive and helpful, it would have been a bigger struggle than it was. But just building that around you can really help you move forward.
I think that's great advice. Really do. So thanks for sharing that with us. You've been a user of GameLens since the day that we launched it. And I wanted to know, before GameLens came around, what was your approach to on-site and remote coaching for your teams?
I'll start with remote. That's the easiest. Absolutely none. There's no remote coaching. It was if we didn't have practice, if we had a snow day, if I was out sick, there was no contact other than online saying like, hey, no practice today. In person was really just walking up and down a line of kids with their headphones on, tapping them on the shoulder and saying like, hey, look out for this, or next time do this first, or make sure you have all your meds. So really inconvenient and distracting for the student themselves when they really got to pay attention to what's going on in the game, and they got a coach behind them tapping on their shoulder and asking them to take their headphones off for a second. It didn't really lend to great coaching or a great experience for the student either.
3 hours of doing that.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. It's like, tiring and you didn't feel like you were coaching. It just felt like you were correcting. You were correcting something that had happened. You weren't actively in the moment being able to like explain to them what was going on.
Yeah. What tools did you look at before landing on GameLens? I mean, obviously we probably came around at the right time, but
yeah,
had you looked at other tools or explored existing tools that, you know, maybe offered some of what we do? Like what was your
I kind of looked around for different coaching tools or coaching apps or anything in that same wheelhouse, but I couldn't find anything that would work for us or anything that seemed like it was exactly what we needed at that time. The closest we got to it was just streaming our practices on Twitch and then trying to talk to them through Discord at the same time. And it was just the lag and delay between the video and the audio. You could hear me through the audio talking to the kids during practice. So it just really didn't fit what we needed.
When you switched over to using GameLens and integrating it into both remote and on-site, how has it changed the way that you coach?
Being more active and then being in the moment itself. Like I said, coaching before GameLens really was correcting things past when they happen. So maybe the students really didn't understand what you're saying unless you could pull up that video and show them through film. But being able to walk them through the process while it's going on, that's been one of our biggest aids with using GameLens. And also keeping the student calm. We have a few students on the team who get real anxious and excited during the matches, and just walking them through during practice and saying like, hey, just you got it, you know what you're doing. Just being that little bug in their ear when they need it.
Yeah. Well, you also gave me a great statistic from a few weeks back when we were just catching up. You mentioned like the jump in like position since you, like just because of what you were able to see. I think it was in Fortnite you were playing. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, so our Fortnite team, like I said, a lot of the kids are freshmen in high school. They've never dealt with a varsity sport before. We have a couple players who are real anxious when they play, and that anxiousness, as you know, can lead to missed opportunities, be a little more sloppy with your gameplay. And we were ranked pretty low within our region. And then after practicing and being able to walk students through scrimmages using different coaching techniques in match, we actually jumped up to second in our region within a few weeks of being able to actively coach and not just passively correcting issues during matches.
I think my smile was ear to ear.
Yeah, it was. I remember that. Yeah.
Incredible to see that jump in such a short span of time as well.
Yeah. As much as these kids like to play with each other, the strategy isn't there yet of making sure, hey, like if you see your partner who isn't healed up yet, you tell them, make sure you take your meds, or ask, like, what are you carrying? There's no reason for 3 people on the team to be carrying med kits when you could be carrying some kind of shield or some kind of other heals with you. And just keeping that idea of making sure we're acting as a team and not just as an individual really, really helped us out.
People say practice makes perfect. It's actually practice makes permanent. If you practice the wrong thing, it sticks. So
and it's hard to break that habit.
What have you seen in terms of performance, team dynamics, communication, maybe even like their individual mood as a team? I remember you telling me like how ecstatic one of the players was when you told them you've got this way of training them now. But overall as a team, like scores aside, what have you seen like in personal development with them since using GameLens?
Just the boost in confidence, really, that they know that they have the skill because we've been able to talk through it during matches. I have one player in particular who gets real hesitant, gets real nervous if they get left behind the group. They kind of freeze up a little bit. and just being able to walk them through it. I mean, individually, they have increased their eliminations, increased their ability to like just help the team out just in general. And that really shows. So we, like I said, beginning of the season, end of last season, we were ranked middle of the pack to lower within our region and in the state. And we actually just competed in the state tournament, the OHSAA state championship for Fortnite. We placed 3rd in our region and 6th in the state. So it's a 3-player team. It's trios. And unfortunately, we didn't have a backup, and our 3rd moved out of the district. So playing just 2 players, we ranked 6th in the state this past
awesome.
Saturday.
That's fantastic. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great. Yeah. Well, then that segues into like what's next for your team, and like what's your hopes for next season and into next year? Like what are you hoping for?
Just growing our program, being able to provide better feedback and coaching to the kids, being able to grow the program into more titles. We have on average 20 some kids on the team per season between all of our titles. I mean, I would like to have the problem where we don't have enough space and we don't have enough PCs to provide to play for these kids, to where we have to write more grants. The grants are out there. We just don't need them yet. But I want to be able to just really grow our program larger and stronger, and continue the success of not just competing at the state level, not just winning regionals, not just being in state finals and championships, allowing these kids to move on to the collegiate level, allowing them to move on to the professional level, and allow them to explore different avenues. 2 of our players who are playing this year as freshmen in college, they have decided to go into esports management. So their degrees will be in esports management, and that could be coaching, that could be managing teams, that could be managing their websites. It just all encompassing, giving them the ability to reach a brand new market that's still in its infancy. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's a great vision. I really do. Yeah. Well, Matt, look, it's been great talking to you today. I really appreciate your time and telling me about Westfall's esports program. Is there anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah, esports is here. It's a new avenue, a new sport that can not just reach out to those kids who aren't typically drawn to a traditional sport, but also just really give your school and students the ability to try something new. I mean, if you try it and it doesn't work, you tried. If you try it and it works, that's fantastic. Just being able to try something new, give the kids every opportunity they can, not just in the classroom, not just on a field or a court, but really just allow them the ability to grow as an individual and as a team player.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
To everyone watching, we really appreciate you for spending some time with us today. If you are an esports coach and would like to share your experience with running your esports program with us, feel free to reach out at info@egame.studio. We'd love to hear from you. Keep an eye out for our next video. And until then, let's all keep leveling up.